What's up, Bert?
What's going on, Dre?
Ready for this interview?
Let's do it.
So, we're finally here. Berto, thank you for having me here at your house, bro.
Definitely,
Appreciate
man.
that.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We finally got to do this interview now because I know it's been months that we've been talking about this, and we stay pretty busy. I know you're always busy at the shop. I stay super busy myself. Even my camera guy, Fareed, always busy too. Shout out to Fareed. And it was hard getting us together in here, but we're finally here. So let's get started with this interview.
Let's do it.
The reason why I want to interview Bert is because he is what I call a superstar barber, a six-figure barber. And just like in basketball, you got a bunch of players, but there's only a handful of superstar players. I feel like it's the same in the barber game. You got a bunch of barbers, but there's only a handful that are really superstar quality. And Berto, so for those of you who don't know you, I know you're very, you're not out there on social media like that. So for those of you who don't know you, tell them a little bit about yourself. Who is Alberto? Where were you born? How was it for you growing up? How did you end up here in Florida? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Definitely will. My name is Alberto. Like Dre just said, I've been cutting hair professionally for a little over 20 years. I got my license in '99, and barbering started out as a hobby. My mom, I was born in Puerto Rico, to a mother of 5 kids, single mother. She raised us, to the best of her ability. She did a great job. We moved to Chicago when I was very young. And then from there, we ended up in Florida, and I've been here most of my life. And, and I consider Tampa home. Tampa's been my home since the early 90s. And, early on in the 90s, met my friends, and, I had a friend that had a pair of clippers, and he's like, hey man, can you cut my hair? And I was like, I don't know how to cut hair, but, I'll try my best. And, I fell in love with it ever since. Again, like I said, it was a hobby, and, hobby that I turned into my career. And I can't think of anything else that I would be doing right now with this business.
Nice. At what point in time you realize, this barbering thing is what I want to do? Like, this is my thing. This is what I want as my career.
Well,
you remember that?
Yeah.
That time?
So again,
I know you. I'm sorry for interrupting. Yeah. I know you also have a nursing degree.
Well, no, I don't have a nursing. I have a physical therapy assistant degree.
Okay, all right.
So and that's the thing.
You have more options.
Correct, exactly. So again, like I said earlier, it was a hobby. I never thought that you can actually turn barbering into a career early on. So I did go to school. I got educated. I went to school. I worked at Tampa General for a few years, and I continued to cut hair on the side. My friends, my family, and but I always had a passion for cutting hair, and I just didn't think it was something that you can actually make a living doing. But little by little, I kept going at it, and before you knew it, I had a clientele that I had to make a decision. Either I continue to work at the hospital, or do I take a chance on barbering and see where it takes me? And and I did. I made a hard decision. I left my career. I started my new journey as a barber, and I never looked back.
I tell you what, guys, for those of you guys listening, Bert is the hardest working barber I ever seen. And I have more barbers that actually work very hard in the squad, in my team. But I feel like Berto's gotta be the hardest working one. He gets to the shop. What time you get to the shop every day?
Usually I get there around 7 o'clock in the morning.
Look at that. And you've been there earlier than that, huh?
I have. But for certain clients, obviously they take good care of me. I make the effort, and I show up. I wake up in the morning and I show up. But they take care of me, so they make it worth my time.
Definitely. Berto, you see how the game has changed a little bit, due to technology, COVID, series of things, right? Now I see that the barbers nowadays, they don't work as hard as we did back in the days. Right. I know me and you, we talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
You've been working with me since I opened the shop.
Correct.
It's been years now, 20 years, right?
20 years, yeah.
And so what can you say to somebody that wants to get into this business, a new barber, or maybe just a barber that is struggling? He's not making the money that he knows he can make. He's not working to his full potential. He might be going from shop to shop, not finding himself, not making good money, just making let's say $500 a week or something. What kind of advice can you give to somebody like that?
What I would tell somebody like that is that, don't get discouraged. Times are a little different now. Back in the days when you and I started, barbershops were a few here and there, So we were lucky that,
we got in a good time.
We did get in a good time. The barber game wasn't viewed the way it's viewed now. I don't think people thought that, barbers can actually make the type of money that we make.
And we're just making it, and nobody knew.
Correct, exactly.
Because social media wasn't out there like that, so it wasn't exposing us. I feel like us barbers from back in the days, we're making our money just, you know what I'm saying?
Down low,
the low key, we're making.
There was no Instagram, there was no Facebook to show off what things we can accomplish.
That we're buying
like now, and
it's all out there.
So we didn't have it, but then again, for the barbers now, is they can take that and use it as an advantage. Use Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those other avenues that we didn't have to advertise themselves. Because now the competition is harder. There's more barbershops, there's more barbers, so it's a little bit different now. But the advantage is that they have those tools to use to advertise themselves, and it's free. It's free advertising. We didn't have free advertising then. Our advertising was the haircuts that were walking out the shop. Hey man, who cut your hair? Yeah. Go see Dre. Go see Berto. Here's their number. That's pretty much passing out flyers. We passed out flyers and that was it. Other than that, we didn't have much.
But you know what I feel? I feel like it's still a great time to be a barber, even though it's not like back in the days when we first opened up that there was people, standing out the door, lining up. Yeah, like somebody would literally have to wait an hour, even 2 hours for a haircut. It was crazy. Now, we don't have that. So barbers coming into the shop, they're not gonna have a bunch of people waiting for them, for them to cut back to back. However, haircuts have gone up a lot.
Correct.
Compared to back in the days.
Yeah.
So where we had to bust our back the whole day cutting hair to make a couple $100, I feel like barbers nowadays can make that in half a day.
Correct.
So that's a plus right there.
I
feel like the start is a little bit slower now, but overall, once they build their clientele, they're gonna make more money. Exactly. Because now per haircut, they're making more money.
Exactly.
It just takes a little bit more effort from the barber, which a lot of barbers are not ready to put in that effort, ready to put in that grind, or ready to actually just pay that ground price. When you first get started and you're not making much money, and some people don't know how to can't handle that. You know what I mean? Because they figure, what, to make just a little bit of money, I'm better off just working anywhere and make $15 an hour. But I feel like they're not seeing the potential that once you build a clientele, once you're busy, booked back to back, then you're really gonna start making some money. You're gonna start seeing some good money.
Correct.
So I feel like as a barber, new barbers need to see that. They need to see the potential of how much they can make once they build their clientele. Not starting out. Starting off, you could probably make more money working at McDonald's. Who knows? Depending on what shop you go to, But eventually you're gonna make good money. Correct. If you're consistent.
Definitely.
Now, tell us a little bit about your work ethic. Like, how's your routine like? Like, what time do you wake up? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, again, this is me.
Your preparations the night before.
Yeah, I make sure that I go to bed at a decent time. I like to wake up at 5 in the morning every morning. That way I can get my day started. and then I try to get to the shop at 7. I try to, and believe it or not, clients do love those early morning time. People ask me all the time, man, who comes that early in the morning?
Nobody.
And I'm like, man, I got clients that love to come in early. Yeah. They.
I mean, barbers. The other barbers are not trying to do that.
Well,
most barbers,
correct,
for the most
exactly.
part,
And
they're not trying to wake up that early.
Yeah, and then again, listen, I know everybody has different responsibilities. People got kids. They got they got to take them to school, get them ready for school. So I know it's not an option for everybody, but those that do have that option, they should take advantage, because there are clients out there that love those early times, and you can charge them more. You can charge them more before. By the time the barbershop actually opens, which on average a barbershop opens at 10 in the morning, you already made decent money. You can probably have your booth rent in half a day, and then everything else is profit. But again, I know everybody's situation is different. So, but what you should do is just take your situation and then work around it and build your schedule around whatever that situation is. But stick to your schedule, because one thing I do notice is that
be consistent.
People love consistency.
They do,
and that's just everybody loves consistency
for everything.
Exactly, in everything. So people, they want a reliable barber. They want somebody they can count on. They want somebody that is there for them. And I'm telling you, it works. It works for me, and it can work for anybody. I don't think I'm anybody special. I think I just apply myself.
You're just consistent.
And I'm consistent, and I apply myself, and I stay with the routine. I stick with my routine, and I try not to let anything get in the way of that routine, and it's worked for me all these years.
I feel like clients will understand if, let's say, you're off Sundays and Mondays.
Correct.
Even Sundays, Monday, and Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll get used to that, and they'll understand, all right, my barber is not there on Tuesdays. But then come Thursday or Friday, they're expecting their barber to be there.
Correct.
And it's just so bad for business when they call that barber or they call the shop and nobody knows what this guy is at, or he's not picking up his phone. I feel like most barbers, they mess up their clientele themselves. It's not even
you're hurting
anybody else.
You're hurting yourself when you do that. You hurt yourself.
They do it themselves.
It's like what I tell some of the guys. I'm like, listen, if you don't want to call and tell the manager you're not going to be there, at least tell your clients. Let your client know. If anybody should know, should be your client. Let them know, hey, things happen, things come up, emergency happen, and you don't got to tell them.
And I'm sure you've seen some of these guys not even pick up their phone for their clients.
And you just tell them, like, hey, I had an emergency. I'm not going to be there. I know we have an appointment at 3 o'clock. Can we reschedule? And people, they appreciate that. They appreciate that rather than they get there at 3 o'clock and you're not there. Sometimes I have clients who drive very far to come see me. And they're wasting their gas, their time. You don't know if they had to rearrange their schedule, maybe had to send somebody else to pick up their kids from daycare. You just don't know what they had to do to get to the shop, and then you're not there. That's not fair. Right. The least you can do is let your clients know, hey, something happens, I'm not going to be there. Can we please reschedule for a different day? And 9 times out of 10, everybody's good, with that.
That's true. Berto, now you're a very well-rounded barber. Not only your cutting skills and your work ethic that you're always there, but also the way that you treat clients.
Correct.
The way that you greet the clients, the conversations that you talk with clients. Can you tell barbers listening a little bit about that? Because I feel like some barbers, surprisingly, they don't really have it. They don't have very good people skills, and I feel like that really hurts their career.
Yeah, well, whenever you decide to be a barber, you have to know that you're going to be dealing with people, and you're going to be dealing with people on a close
proximity.
Barbers, you build a relationship with your clients. I have clients that I've been cutting for 20 years. I cut them when they were kids, and now I'm cutting their kids. So that's the type of relationships that you build with your clients. So yeah, it's not all about like the haircut, you know. It's about um, the relationship. It's about consistency. It's about um, building trust with somebody. You know, I've been to many weddings. I've been to people's baby showers. Yeah, my clients invite me to all their private events. You know, and it's like it's more than a haircut. You build a friendship with these with your clients, and yeah, so it's not just about the haircut. It's like you just gotta be professional. You gotta be people friendly, and it's not hard. You know, I work with barbers that, for instance, we had a barber that worked with us years and years ago, and his haircuts were probably like C plus at best, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
But
remember.
this man had one of the strongest clientele
Ever seen?
still to this day that I ever seen, and
Yeah, it was
and I
strong
remember
clientele.
like people used to sit there and wait for this man, and I used to see some of the haircuts walk in front of me, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Not the
But then
best one.
I paid attention, and I'm like, man, what is so good about this man that people continue to come back to see him? And it's just the man had great conversation with these people. I think
He
people
sure
used to
did.
go there for
More for the conversation.
more for the conversation
Than
than
for
the
the haircut.
haircut. Because I remember he used to go on vacation, and there was times that he didn't get around to telling everybody he was gone on vacation. So people would come and like, hey, is so-and-so here? And I'm like, nah, he's on vacation. But there's like 3-4 other barbers that are here that are available. And they're like, no, I'll be back. I'll wait for him.
Oh,
And it was consistently like that. Hey, so-and-so here? I'm like, no, he's on
No.
vacation. And I felt like some of the barbers that were there would be able to give that client a better haircut than he would. But you can't argue with somebody who has that type of loyalty, whose clients have that type of loyalty. How do you correct somebody with that?
Yeah,
You know?
that's true. No, and I remember even years later, after he wasn't at the barbershop anymore, that clients would come in and ask for him.
Correct, yeah.
I remember actually 5 years later, I remember going into the shop to help out to Famasters 2 on Fowler. And there were people, I remember seeing a client walk in asking for this barber.
Yeah. And that right
goes
there
a long
proved
way.
that right there proved that it's not just about a haircut.
It's the experience.
It's the experience, it's the relationship you build with these people, it's the conversations you have with these people, and you just have to take a little bit of everything and just put it all in one package, and it'll work.
Yeah.
It'll work. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, but I've seen fresh barbers come in that, man, I see some of the haircuts that come out of those chairs, and I'm like, man, those haircuts are badass, you know? That's a badass haircut, man, he just gave that guy. You know, and I'm like,
But-
I don't feel like I'm the best barber, you know? But I feel like I'm the best at having a good relationship with my clients, you know?
I agree. Yeah, it's like my mission statement. It goes, we don't build clientele, we build relationships.
Correct. And it's
You know?
true. It's true. It's a relationship. I mean, some of my clients have gone through divorce, marriage, and marriage and divorce again, you know?
They're still with you.
And they're still with me. Like,
They've gone through a couple of wives, but haven't changed.
They
you.
look at me, they're like, man, you're my longest relationship. You know?
Wow.
And it's like,
Very
it's tons
true.
of clients, you know, and I'm still there with them, you know, and they're still there with me. So it's like, you know, and they move far and they still come see me. And, you know, they're like, no matter where I go, if I can drive to you, I'm going to come see you. And, you know, sometimes I think about how many barbershops they pass before they get to see me.
Right.
You know? I had a
Very
client
true.
that his wife was like, man, they just opened a new barbershop in the plaza across the street from the house. Why don't you try them? And he's
They're like,
like,
nah.
hell nah. They're like, never. And they can walk to that barbershop.
Yeah, once you make somebody feel really,
Yeah.
really good, they're not gonna go anywhere else. I feel
Correct.
like. And I also feel like the picky clients could be the most loyal customers.
Correct.
You know, so where a lot of barbers they shy away from the picky clients and they want to like book them off on on their booking system or block their phone number and not cut them anymore. These picky clients, once they find the right barber for them, and on top of that you give them good customer service, they're not gonna go anywhere
Correct.
because they know nobody's gonna. More than likely, they're not gonna cut their hair as good. Number one, and then on top of it, you're making them feel good. They're not going nowhere.
Correct.
You know, I retire I've been retired since December, not last year, the year before, and I know if I go back, I'm still gonna get a few of my a few of my clients to come back,
Correct.
or probably many of them. You know, once they know that I'm cutting again,
Exactly.
because of the way I treat them. The other day, I actually had a client drove all the way to my house, and I live almost an hour from him.
Mm-hmm.
Pay me $100 and get his haircut, just because he missed getting cuts by me.
Yeah, people will do that. They'll do that. In fact, I got a text today. A client that I haven't seen since June of last year. He moved and he just texted me. He's like, "Man, I'm here for a few days. I need to come see you. You know, I haven't gotten my haircut because I knew that I was coming."
They tell you that I haven't had a real haircut,
Correct.
real boom since last time you cut me. And
And
stuff
you gotta
like
come
that.
tomorrow to see me. You know, so it's like, you know, things like that make, you know, I start thinking that I must be doing something right. You know.
Again. Bert, do you think that social media is affecting the new barbers in a negative way or a positive way? Or kind of like there's some negatives and some positives?
I mean, there's always going to be some negative, but I think if you use it the right way, you'll get more positive, you know, out of it than anything else. Because, like I said earlier, it's free advertising. If you use it the right way, you know, it can take you anywhere. I know, in fact, I have a client of mine that I've been cutting since he was a baby. He moved to Tallahassee to go to FAMU for college, and he always kept telling me he wanted to be a barber. I went to high school with his dad. I'm still friends with him, and you know, this kid, he's doing big things. You know, he's doing big things. He started cutting hair a year ago. He's already got a YouTube channel.
Wow.
He's about to hit 1,000 subscribers here in the next few days. I think he was like 10 subscribers from being to the 1,000, and he's utilizing social media to his advantage. And I see how social media has catapulted him in just a year of him being a licensed barber.
That's good.
And you know, he's doing demos on his page, and I think, like I said, he's one person that I can see that gonna go places, and social media has helped him get to where he's at so far.
Yeah, I think that social media is good in the sense that barbers can promote themselves, get new clients. That's pretty good. I think it's bad when barbers are listening to other barbers that are only talking about, oh, raise prices, raise your prices, without disclosing everything, which is like, hey, you know, once you get to be really busy and you're doing your thing, then you can increase your prices. You know what I mean?
Correct.
But they just go straight to that subject, raise your prices. That's all these barbers are hearing, these new barbers, and then they want to come fresh out of school into Fame Masters talking about, hey, let's raise our prices. I'm like, nah, man, calm down, man. Build your clientele first. You know what I mean? Actually, even better yet, perfect your cutting first.
Correct.
Master your craft.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, build clientele before you start thinking about raising prices. And but another thing, so you obviously been very successful. You've been very dedicated. What does it take? I mean, what do? You save a lot of money? How do you do it? I mean, to buy a house like this, a huge house, beautiful cars. You've always had beautiful cars. This is not the only one, the only beautiful car I've seen you with. Give some barbers some pointers. You know, let's say a barber wants to be as successful as you, or somewhat close. Let's say in 5 years. What would you say to that barber? What kind of advice would you give?
I would tell some, you know, barbers out there, just write a list of things you want to accomplish. Just write a list of things that you want. You know, and again, like the things, I don't expect everybody to be like me. I don't expect everybody to want the same wants that I have, but everybody out there has wants. You know, so write all your wants and just set a goal that you want to have this by this date. I want to have this by that date, and just work your ass off. Just go in the shop early, stay late. You know, just, you know, the excuses are just, like they say, excuses are for the birds. You know, like I'm not better than anybody out there. I did it. Anybody out there can do it. Just get up in the morning, go to work, be responsible. Check with your clients. If you haven't heard from a client in a while, check on them, call them, be like,
Yeah,
hey,
clients
man,
like that, right?
Yeah,
That-
I haven't
that
seen you in a
goes
while,
a
you
long
know,
way.
are you good, you know? I mean, do you need a cut? You know, I got some openings this week. If you need a haircut, you know, I'd be more than happy to take care of you. But for me, it's just consistency. I've been very disciplined with my money. I saved. I make sure that I pay all my bills first, you know, and whatever's left over, I put it in savings. And again, I wrote myself a list of wants, you know, because wants are not needs, you know. You got your needs, which are,
wants.
you know, your the roof over your head, and then, you
Some
know,
food.
and everything in between,
Basic
you know,
necessities,
you're
yeah.
correct, your basic necessities. So you take care of those first, and then whatever's left over, then you save it. So, you know, let's say you want a car, right? And the car's, say 10 grand, you know? Then just start putting money aside. You know, eventually you'll get it. And listen, I've done it. It's not that hard. Anybody can do it, you know, like I said.
Berto, and what about for? I noticed that with the new barbers, a big problem is that if actually even some barbers that are not new to the barber shop, that been there for a little bit, but I see that when there's a slow day, they want to go home. How do you? I mean, do you go through that as well, or what goes through your mind if you happen to have a slow day? Which I know is probably very hard for you to have a slow day.
Well, I can
But
go
if-
back to when I started cutting hair.
Okay.
And when you had barbers there that were already experienced, you know, they had their clientele. Like D Hill, remember D Hill, and some of those guys, you know, Russell, those guys,
Brian,
all those dudes, you know, they had their clientele. Like, you know, I got, you know, like I said, I got my bar license in '99. You opened the shop in '02, but I was still working at the hospital.
Right.
You know, so barbering wasn't my full-time job. So when I came into the shop and I was working there part-time, there was a lot of times that I was just sitting there for a while. I was watching those guys cut hair.
You were just patient, right?
Yeah,
Just
correct. You just
patient.
gotta be patient because, you know, the people the barbers that have their clientele can't take care of, you can take care of them.
That falls on you, yeah.
And eventually, you know, you do a decent job and they'll become your clients. And, you know, like, for instance, like now, like I see sometimes when, yeah, it's slow and it can be frustrating. I can understand that. And the barber's been sitting there all day. And next thing you know, 5 o'clock rolls around. They're like, oh man, I've been here all day. I only cut 2 heads. I'm going to go. I'm wasting my time. And as soon as they leave, literally,
That's when somebody walks in.
like 10 minutes after they
That's
leave,
true. That's so true, man.
you get like 2, 3, 4, 5 walk-ins coming.
You know, I had a barber tell me, "Oh no, I leave early when I know nobody's gonna come in." I'm like, "How the hell are you supposed to know when that nobody's gonna come in after 6, for example?" "Oh no, I know that nobody was gonna come in. That's why I left at 6." I'm like, "Nah, you don't know if somebody's gonna come in
and
at
it happens
6:30,
all the time.
6:45. You just don't know."
It happens all the time. And again, like, I'm almost booked every day, right? So I'm there till close. So usually I'm the one that has to tell the people that come in, hey, unfortunately, you know, there's nobody here to take care of you. But if you want to come back tomorrow, you know, we'll be here from this time to that time. And it happens. It literally, as soon as sometimes I see the barber driving down the parking lot. And as soon as they exit, you see a car pull in, boom.
It's one of the barbers.
It's one of a client.
Oh, the client.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, can anybody take care of a walk? And I'm like, well, you know, unfortunately, you know, there's nobody here to take care of you. But, you know, that potentially could be a client.
Of course.
That it could be, you just gotta be patient. I'm telling you, it'll happen. I did it. I went through it. I sat for a while. I watch other barbers cut all day.
Mm-hmm.
And I can admit it is frustrating. But you gotta have patience, you know, but you know, but I can promise you it'll work out, you know?
Yeah. I feel like the right way to do business is for the shop to close. If they say they're gonna close at 7, for the barber to stay, even if the day is slow, for the barber to stay there until 7. Because you never know if somebody's gonna try to come in at 6:55.
Correct.
And technically you're supposed to be open.
That's
If you're
technically,
saying
yeah.
that you're still open until 7. Even if it's to tell them, listen, I cannot take you because I'm cutting somebody and by the time I'm done it's gonna be 7:30. I feel like that's more understandable and that shows more professionalism than for a client to go and try to open the door at 6:50, 6:55. It's locked already. Like,
Correct.
at what time did these people really leave, you know?
Correct.
But yeah, Bert, I know that you stay busy always cutting. Actually, I put you as an example. I don't know if you knew that. I mean, I don't think I ever told you. A lot of times when one of my barbers complains, oh yeah, man, business is low, or blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, look, today is Tuesday, and I bet you my boy Bert is cutting right now. And I'll show him the cameras. I'll be like, hey, look, bro, boom, here he is, cutting right now. You know, like you cut back to back to back. You know what I mean? And I feel like the barbers, if they focus on staying busy rather than on how much they're charging their clients. You know what I mean? Sometimes we think so much about the money that we miss it. You know what I mean?
All right.
I feel like if we focus on staying busy, the money's gonna come. You know, the high-paying clients are gonna come. You're busy enough, a high-paying client is gonna appreciate that you fit him in. Now he's gonna bless you with more money.
Correct.
He's just gonna start paying you more without you even asking for it because you know you stay that busy, and he's gonna appreciate that you're picking up his phone, that you're gonna give him a time.
Right.
So that just happens organically, you know, without having to try to get the most out of these clients.
All right.
Charge them so much. Bert, in the barber game, it's not just making the money, right? It's also what to spend the money on. So you've been very smart with your money. You want to give people some tips about like what do you like to spend your money on, or what do you like to invest your money on?
Well,
What not to spend money on?
correct. Now go back to when I bought this house, for instance. I bought this house in 2014. I set a goal that I didn't want to pay for it for 30 years. I didn't want to. I was like, I don't want to pay for this house for 30 years. I want to pay it off eventually, you know? So then that was my other goal. So one of the goals was to buy the house. So I did that. I bought the house in 2014. And, you know, like we said earlier, I like to save. Saving is very important to me. And I was fortunate enough to save a decent amount where I was able to put 75% down on the house, which the broker was like, wow, you know, I've been doing this for many years. I never had somebody put that much down on a house. You know, you're the first. And I told him, he asked me why. He's like, interest rates are real low, because back then interest rates were low. And I was like, I don't want to pay for a house forever. And I've been lucky enough that I work hard and I was able to pay this house off 2 years ago. So I've been mortgage free for 2 years now.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that was wow. Yeah, definitely, man. So that was one of my goals, you know. That's another goal that I had. And then to me this is an investment. You know, my home is an investment.
Real estate is a very good investment.
Because at the end of the day, if I want to rent this house out, Airbnb it or whatever, it's mine. It'll forever make me money. You know, I will never sell it. I'll never sell this house. I'm mortgage free. It can make me money. I can go buy me an apartment because I really don't need this big house. But you know, again, like I said, I bought in 2014. The prices were still real low for houses, and I got a great deal on it. And I now I can make money off of it, and that's the plan. You know, to make money off this home. So that's one investment. Another investment is that I had I had money again saved, and it wasn't making me as much money in the bank, so I went ahead and I started looking for investment businesses, how I can make my money work for me. And one thing that kept sticking out was landscaping. Even though I had no knowledge in anything with landscaping, but I educated myself. I read up on it. I asked some of my clients who own landscaping companies, and then 6 years ago I bought a landscaping company. So I invested into a landscaping company, and it has about 130 accounts. I have about anywhere from 4 to 6 employees that run the company, and that's called residual money. You know, so now I'm working towards retirement. Even though I feel like barbers never really retire, we're always gonna be barbers. But there's gonna come a time where I'm not gonna. Even if I want to, my body's not going to allow me to stand for 12, 13 hours, 6 days a week, you know?
Right.
And that's just being real, you know. Eventually the body breaks down and it won't allow me to work as much as I work now. So now I got to think about the next chapter in my life. Even though I'm still young, you know, the years go by quick.
You're right.
So you have to also think about, you know, a retirement plan. For me, retirement is working 3 days a week. That'll be retirement for me.
Right.
I'm still gonna be working, but instead of working the 6 days that I work now, I cut back to 3 days. So yeah, so the next chapter is working towards retirement, which is, you know, working 3 days a week, and which is actually, you know, if you think about it, most people, you know, when they retire, they never fully retire. People retire and then they get a part-time. My mom, she retired and now she has like 5 clinics that she cleans at night, and she's been retired for over 10 years. But you know, you gotta keep busy, stay busy, you know.
Yeah,
like,
that keeps you young too.
Yeah, with body and motion, you know, keeps you young. So
it's true.
I don't think I'll ever stop cutting hair. I just won't do it as much as I'm doing it now. But right now, my body still allows me to work like I do, and listen, and people might think that I don't have a life, right? Because I work so much.
Yeah, like some barbers, they're gonna say
be
like,
man,
just
joking.
yeah.
What do you do? When do you find time to do fun stuff? I'm like, man, I'm always doing fun stuff.
That's true.
You know,
You're off on Sundays.
There's 24 hours in a day. There's plenty. You can do plenty, you know?
That's true.
Sometimes I get off of work, I come home, I shower, and I'll go watch a football game, a basketball game, a hockey game at a bar, you know? Yeah. And then, you know, on the weekends, you know, when I get off of work, if there's something to do, then, you know, I'll do it.
And right now you're off Sundays and you do like a half a day.
Yeah, so I'm off on Sundays and then I do a half a day on Wednesday. And on Wednesday, you know, I do all my personal stuff. And that's another thing, you know, people always say, oh, I can't be at the shop because I got to go to the doctors. I got to go do this. I'm like, listen, take your day off and try to book everything on your day off. That way you're not in and out of the shop all the time, you know? And that's what I do. I try to book everything on a Wednesday. That way everybody knows that Wednesday I don't work late. And
that's the way to
you know, and then I try to book all my stuff on Wednesday.
Yeah. How do you feel about when barbers, they're like, oh, because I had a doctor's appointment on that day. I feel like, yo, you can tell the doctor, no, I cannot come in on that day. I cannot come in on a Friday. It has to be on a Wednesday, or it has to be on my day off. You know what I mean?
Well, for instance, when I was just at my dermatologist not too long ago, right? And then I finished my visit, went to the front desk, and the lady's like, all right, the doctor wants to see you in 6 months. And I was like, all right, can we do it on a Wednesday?
Right.
And she's like, yeah, what time? And I gave her the time, and that was it. You know, doctor's visits usually they get booked months in advance.
Exactly. I just feel like sometimes barbers, they feel like they cannot say no to a doctor or for a certain day or an accountant or whatever. I feel like you can set your time. You know what I mean? You set your own time.
Now, if it's an emergency, then that's something different. You know, if it's an emergency and there's something that needs to be taken care of with urgency, of course. But if it's just a regular visit, regular checkup or whatnot, that could be booked around your schedule.
Like you can demand that it has to happen on your day off.
Correct.
That's it.
Correct.
Not on your busiest day, like on a Friday.
Yeah, but
like I see some barbers do.
Yeah, but if you're sick or
you woke up, you're sick and
that morning and there's something growing out of your body, you know, then of course you want to go get that looked at then and there, you know.
Or you gotta do the what is it? I think it's never happened to me though. I think the gallbladder when they gotta take it out the same day.
Oh yeah. If it's an emergency, it's an emergency. But you know, but if it's just a regular doctor's visit, then you can book that around your schedule. You know.
That's true.
I do it all the time.
But yeah. All right, Bert. Thank you for.
No, you're welcome, man. Definitely, man.
And I hope you guys like what you guys hear. Please like, share, follow, and I'll see you guys. All right. Take care. Follow Bert. Hey, give him your IG.
Alberto Style 79.
And for me is Faye Masters Barbershops. I'm on Facebook, Faye Masters Barbershops. You got a Facebook for barbering or no? Only the Instagram?
No, just my Instagram.
Okay. Take
Peace.
care. Holler.